Hello faithful viewers and welcome back to another Transformers review. This time we are taking a look at the Studio Series 86 Leader Class Megatron. He's finally here and look at him in his glory. He turns into a Walter P38 pistol, of course he does. And it is a pretty good representation of his vehicle mode, or alternate mode I should say, in the G1 movie. Let's take a look at him in greater detail. So picking him up, looking along the side here, we have a nice Decepticon symbol and just some good general detail all round. And then the scope of the gun is really magnificently sculpted. It truly is. They've done a really excellent job here, Hasbro have, at recreating this guy as he looked in the G1 movie. I am a bit disappointed though that this side of the gun mode doesn't have a Decepticon symbol like this side. I don't know if the budget ran out or something, but it's a shame. You'd expect more from a leader class figure. But you know, the thing that I really do appreciate about this guy's alt mode is that it is, in terms of scale, perfect, because if you've got a Starscream hanging around like I have with this idiot here, then he's compatible. So if you just plonk him into his fist like this, and there you go. You can now recreate the infamous scene from the beginning of the film where the Decepticons storm the Autobot shuttle. It's brilliant. I love that feature of the figure. Now, Hasbro have been able to pull off something rather ingenious with this guy because he is a triple changer. Not only does he turn into a robot, he's also got another mode on top of this, would you believe? So to transform him into his alternate mode, there's kind of parts forming involved. So the first thing you want to do is just take this entire bit and just shake it like this. There you go, you're all done. Megatron now in tank mode. Has the bit gotten old yet? Okay, so he doesn't really turn into a gun. You honestly think Hasbro would do that? Gun laws make it so that they can't do it, and toy laws and all of that. There's a whole load of politics behind it, but Megatron here actually turns into a questionable tank. Apparently, this guy is actually based off a tank that would have existed in real life but was cancelled before it actually was mass produced. And it's an odd thing, it really is. The majority of the tank body here does look pretty darn nice. I like all of this that's going on. What I don't like is all of that. All of the turret section I just don't think works, and I think many people also have this complaint about this figure, because don't get me wrong, he's a great figure, he really is. He's got a fantastic robot mode, as we'll see in a bit, and this vehicle mode, to all sense, is pretty darn good. It's just this, because you've got a lazy combination of the arms clinging to the side of this really ridiculously long cannon here, and then the rotation factor. As you can see, it is not in the centre of the turret, it is at the very end. It reminds me of the first movie Deluxe Class Brawl, which also has the same really weird apparatus going on. And just the whole reason for it is these tubular bits at the back here. And not only do they hamper this vehicle mode, they also hamper the robot mode and getting him through his transformation sequence. It is the weakest part of the design overall. However, let's not be too negative about the vehicle mode because it does work. He rolls really nicely, and otherwise it's just a pretty solid thing. You've got a nice flat chesty front end here with the Decepticon symbol up top. You've got these panels here, which it doesn't all come together in a uniform sense, but it's not awful. And then the sides here, really nice, really flush, all comes together beautifully. Turning them over, what becomes what, things are decently well hidden. The head is tucked away and you would have no idea where it is. The feet are just here, but at least they are closed up. And then the arms are up top. So he does an admirable job for what it is. Obviously he didn't turn into this in the G1 film, but he needs to be something other than this. He can't be this. Get over it, folks. For accessories, so he's got his fusion cannon here. He's got this muzzle, which actually belongs to this. Nice that they incorporated it, because of course in robot mode he does have it just hanging over his shoulder. And they've now put it as part of the tank cannon, and it's a swell idea. Obviously this that we've looked at, and then he has his lightsaber, which he uses briefly against Optimus in their final battle. Nice purple blade, nice purple crossguard, ridged hand grip. Yeah, pretty cool. It's also got sort of like a Minicom port on there, so it might actually be compatible with Armada figures, would you believe? And then there's plenty of ports all over the shot that you can plug it in. He says as he fails miserably. There we go, we got it in. So yeah, there's numerous places for weapon storage all over here. You've got those bits, you've got those bits on the sides there, you've got those bits. There's probably something underneath. Probably not though. Point is, plenty of places for them. And he doesn't come with his Energon mace, but then again, he didn't have that in the film. Overall though, I'm happy reasonably with what we've got here. Vehicle mode kind of leaves a little bit to be desired with this, but otherwise it's reasonably solid. Getting down to the transformation sequence then. So the first thing we're going to do is detach the arms away from the fusion cannon and then split it away from that like really weird apparatus there. Pull this out and just pull that bit out there into an L configuration, and then take this panel, we're going to unclip it, and then we're just going to double hinge it back and slap it into place at the back of the cannon, and then we can just discard all of that and we will return to them at the very end. Then when it comes to the arms, we are going to just hinge them as far out as we can, and I'm even going to just bring them up like that just for the sake of clearance, because these blasted things get in the way of practically everything that you're trying to do. Then with the sides of the tank, we're just going to disconnect them from the front, and we're just going to leave them out like that because we can't bring them all the way back just yet. We're going to hoist them up at a slight angle again for clearance, and then detach all of this, and then you can bring it all the way down. With the feet, we're going to extend them out. We're going to straighten the toes and the heels as we do so. Let's bring them out, flatten them just like that. We could take the shins, careful not to bend his knee as you bring these out. Straighten them. So we've got that going on here. And then when it comes to the sides of the treads and all of this, we're going to start at the middle, and we're going to take them pieces and bring them down just like that on either side. And then we're going to come to this back bit here. We're going to open it up. We're going to close that back in and then close that back up like this. Same at the front. We are going to open the biggest panel. We're going to fold the tiny tip in. We're going to close that panel back. And then we can finish off actually constructing the legs. So we're going to close all of this in on itself. We're going to bring them just under the shins. We're going to lock them into the central piece there. We're going to bring the shins. We're going to snap them into place. Don't know what happened with my words then. Fold the feet back. We're going to take this grey piece then and just tab it into the back, and that should keep everything sort of secured into place just like this into one decently neat package. Just give everything another squeeze, and that should be one leg all done. So second verse, same as the first. We're just going to finish off with these panels. Close all this up, close this into here and tab it in, tab in the front shin area, tab in the back if it wants to play ball, squeeze everything, get the foot into place, and there you go. That's his lower legs all done. So then we are going to flip him around. We are going to try and figure out where we are because everything gets a little bit slightly confusing. We're going to bring the chest piece down. We're going to rotate his head out. And then we're going to fold that, hopefully, back up. There we go. We're going to take this extension piece and we're going to fold that in. We're going to continue bringing all of this up. We're going to take the skirt pieces and we're just going to move them down to the side. Bring this up, tab his midriff in, tab his chest in like this, rotate him 180 at the waist. Okay, so the worst part of the transformation sequence then, getting the arms back in. So as they are like this, you want to be rotating them 180 like this, and then we are going to fold them in like that. We're going to fold all of this up, And then it's just trying to shimmy them into place, and it's not easy because you have to put so much force. That's one side done though. And then push it in, there we go. We actually managed it without too much hassle, but it can be quite difficult. And then with the arms, we do something interesting. Open up these panels like this, rotate them 180, get the hands, pull them out, and close the panels up. And you've effectively extended them without properly extending them. It's a nice little piece of engineering magic that they've pulled off here. So open this, spin it 180, get the fist out, and close it back up. That's the majority of the robot done. So we're just going to plug the gun nozzle back in. We're going to plug his fusion cannon back in like that. And there you go, SS86 Megatron transformed into robot mode. So here's Megatron in robot mode, and this is the best thing about this figure just in general. The look of him. Isn't he the spitting image of his G1 self? He's got no kibble on him whatsoever aside from the obvious gun nozzle thing, which is meant to be there. But he is absolutely beautiful looking. It is stark raving bonkers how well he has been engineered, how he has turned from a pretty boxy looking tank to such an actual slim robot. It's really crazy how they've managed to store so much into these legs, and yet they retain the great proportions that he had in the cartoon. Let's zoom in and take a look at that noggin in greater detail. And it's not perfect, but it's darn good. The one major detractor that he has is that his head is maybe just a bit too long. Just a bit too elongated. But otherwise, you know, spitting image of his G1 self. Gleaming red eyes, no light piping, but that's fine. He's got a massive screw on the back of his head. He's got the bushy black brows of anger right there. And as we looked at tank mode, great Decepticon symbol on his chest. Great detail on his apps as we pan down. You know, blue, red, yellow. All the detailing on the side there also. Now the shins were a point of contention for a lot of people because in the stock images they looked very blue. Well, I'm happy to report in person they are not so blue. They are a nice grey. Now in camera, I don't know, I'll leave it to you guys to decide, but take my word for it, they are not as blue as people were thinking they were or as the stock images were presenting them to be. Otherwise, I think proportionally he's good. I know folks like TJ Omega had a little bit of issue with the shoulders, them maybe not being bulky enough or these little points here not being high enough, but I think they're fine. It's just the general engineering of the shoulders and trying to get them in and out of those places for the transformation is a pain in the arse. Then the way that the arms come together for tank mode, I don't particularly like either. But otherwise, I think it's really good. The fusion cannon, again, people proportion-wise have a little bit of disappointment in this. I'm not too terribly perturbed by it, though. It doesn't look awful. G1 Megatron was never my personal favourite, so we could do whatever I want with him, really, and I wouldn't be too awfully fussed. However, I do think that this looks a lot better than the Siege and Earthrise Megatrons that turn into a tank also, that have the massive stuff on the back. This has set the new gold standard for what G1 Megatron should be. Megatron can also hold his accessories with little difficulty. You can see the gun in that hand and the lightsaber in that one as well. To accommodate the ability to hold them, he has articulated fingers, which was a pleasant surprise. I am slightly concerned just with how thin his thumbs are and just those general connecting pieces, that they might eventually snap if you incorporate the attachments into his hands one too many times. So it's just something to be wary of, that they are quite thin, and such things have a precedent for breakage. And to get these attached onto his back, there is a little grey tab on top of the gun sight there, so you just want to be plugging them into the rectangular slot right next to the gun nozzle, which is a little bit easier said than done. And he's fighting me. Come on, Mags. Now he's in. It's just like that. And then the lightsaber can just plug right there. It's pretty decent. I appreciate that you can shove it all on him, and just that little bit there pokes over. It's not too terrible of a thing. At least he can store it all in robot mode. Coming down to articulation then, Megatron's head is capable of rotating 360 degrees. You can look up that far and down that far. At the shoulders, 360 rotation like that. Then you've got a forward butterfly joint, you've got a backward butterfly joint, and then you've got a bicep swivel of 360. You've got just over 90-degree bend at the elbow, and then at the fists, they can rotate 360, and then you've got individual finger articulation. Well, I mean, you've got the trigger finger articulation, and then the other three move in tandem, but that is a nice surprise. And then at the waist, you've got 360 rotation, impressive forward kick, impressive back kick, and a beautiful spread. And then you've got rotation at the thigh of 360. You've got a just over 90-degree knee bend like this. And then at the ankle, you've got rocker and the up and down wiggle waggle, not only at the foot, but also the toe itself can go down forward transformation, but that is an added part of articulation. So overall, very darn good Megatron. I would expect nothing less from a modern figure. Excellent articulation all round. And now for an onslaught of comparisons. We're going to start here with the Fallen. And this is just proof that they are not the same mould. The Fallen is a very, very, very and slightly superior figure to Megatron here. The Fallen is a lot broader. Megatron is a lot skinnier. The Fallen has a lot more on his backpack. Megatron doesn't. He's just got that thing there. Different legs, different transformations. You can see the video review of the Fallen in the top corner. Just they are fundamentally different. He's not a pre-tool of that. Let's put that theory to bed. Completely different in every facet. For Starscreams, I can really only compare him to classic Starscream because that's the only G1 representation I've got here. It's a little bit weird in terms of scale. Screamer would really be a little bit bigger, but hey, it's the best I can do. A scale that surprisingly works though is having him next to the Studio Series Bumblebee movie, Optimus Prime. Now this is a knockoff, but you know, it's a one-to-one knockoff. Megatron should always be bigger than Optimus. Now, Optimus should be slightly taller, possibly. He maybe should come up to at least there, or to his shoulder, but I don't think that's, you know, too off-putting of a scale. So here's Megatron with his future self, Galvatron. And again, this is a pretty decent scale. I'm surprised that Galvatron is actually half a head shorter than Megatron here. As for which figure is superior, that is a tough call. I think in terms of the general engineering, Megatron does have Galvatron beaten. And certainly in terms of kibble, he also has his future self beaten. Galvatron is an excellent figure as well, though. He does come from the Kingdom line, but the 86 Galvatron is just a redeco of this one. So this is essentially two figures from the same line being compared, sort of. And to compare him to some other Megatrons in my collection, Revenge of the Fallen Studio Series, Legacy Armada, and The Last Night Voyager. And he scales pretty decently with all of them. And then for a final comparison, here he is with Titanium Man and Mysterio as per usual. To transform Megatron back into tank mode, if you haven't already removed his accessories, do so now, as well as the Walter P38 gun nozzle, which is on his back. Also remove his fusion cannon. Get your nails into this panel at the back here and bring it forward like this, and then stick the gun nozzle into the fusion cannon, and then you've got his like tank cannon thing here all sorted and ready to go. So for Megatron proper, we're going to begin at his forearms. We're going to get our nails in. We're going to open those panels and flip his fist in like that. Rotate the panel 360, or 180 rather, sorry, and then close the forearm up like that. And you've effectively shrunk his arm in a very interesting manner. Second verse, same as the first. We're going to open that up, close that in, rotate 180, and then reclose. And that's the arm sort of done. Now is the tricky and most uncomfortable part of this entire operation, dislocating his shoulders. Now usually you need to have maximum effort in order to pull them out because it gets stuck in there really well. If you bring them forward on the butterfly and then pull them out, then it might make it slightly easier, but it is just very uncomfortable to do. So separate them out And then with his entire back assembly, you're just going to rotate that out like that. And then you're going to rotate it out again like that. And then looking at all of this chest panel, you're going to bring down and forward. And then hoisting it all up will allow all of this to fall back. The midriff bit you could also just put away. We're just going to oblige by having it like that. And then with his head, we're going to rotate his head in till it just fits snugly in there. We're going to bring his chest up to meet that panel. And then we're going to dig in and take out this bit and just make sure it is forward like that. And then we can just let it all hang for a bit. With his waist, we're going to rotate it 180. And then we're going to take his skirt pieces, we're going to fan them out and bring them around to cover his derriere. And then with his legs, we're going to bring them forward, or backward rather, I should say. And we're going to tab them in to the skirt pieces on some nice little ports that are hanging out just like that. So kind of a higgledy-piggledy mess at the minute, but this is where the fun begins, because a lot of the good stuff of this figure is trapped within his legs. So we're going to begin by coming to these back panels, and we're going to disconnect them like that, which will free up the shins, ironically. And we're just going to hinge them up and out of the way, and we'll get to them a little bit later. We're going to turn our attention to all of this, and with the lower legs, we're just going to fan them out and open them up like that. And as you can see, this is where the majority of the sides of the tanks are stored. So we're just going to bring that out. And then on this side here, we are going to open it up like this. We're going to take this little panel, flip it out, close it back up. Same thing here. We're just going to dig in, open that up, flip that out, close that back up, and then finally we can meet in the middle and click that into place, and that is one tank side done. Same thing on this side. Open this up, get that out, close that back up, open this one up, pull this out, close it back up, and then meet in the middle with this panel and get that into position. Then we are going to take this entire apparatus and just neatly close it in. We're just going to bring those shin pieces just out for the sake of clearance. Just making sure that we've got all of this flat and just tabbing stuff back in that's just come out. So we are rolling his lower torso inside the cavity like that, making sure he's as straight as possible as you do so. And we've kind of got this going on, and his front chest panel has closed itself back up. Just make sure that that remains out like this. With the arms, we're just going to rotate them 180 like that, just rotate them also around. This is all at the minute for the sake of clearance, but we are getting them sort of into the correct position. I'm going to turn my attention now to the shin area, so I'm just going to begin closing his toes up a little bit, and then double hinging the shins in and just letting them sit underneath this apparatus that the arms are attached to. Just trying my best to get them in like that. And then with the feet, closing them up like this. And then it's a matter of tabbing the sides in. You want to really be doing it in a certain sequence. So the treads and all of that, you've got a big thick tab there that goes into this big thick port here. And you've got a smaller tab there, which kind of goes into that bit there, and then you've got a smaller tab on the tip there which hooks into the very tip of the chest extension there. So now, apologies folks, you won't be able to see this, but I've got these side big thick pieces lined up, and then I'm just having a look to try and get the next set. So I've got it there we go. And then the tippy tips of Megatron's tank will just hopefully nice and neatly line up. There we go. Give it a good old squeeze and just make sure that it all does stay together. But you can see the tank is basically complete. It's just getting these arms into the correct positions. And this whole hinge system here can be quite confusing if you don't know kind of what orientation it wants to be in. And sometimes I do wonder myself what orientation it wants to be in. But it's a case of getting this L shape here. And then also just rotating that bit so this tab is on the inside. And then also making sure that this port is on top. Because what we're going to be doing eventually is getting that L shape together there, getting that rotated in, and then we're going to be tabbing these two cylindrical pieces together at the tabs that should now be meeting. It's easier said than done because they are very, very stiff. There we go. That's sort of got it. And let's just get to those pieces. So we have these exposed ports up top, mainly because of these tabs that are on the inside. And this is where you bring the fusion cannon back. So with the cylindrical apparatus here, we've now got this exposed bit on the fusion cannon that we started with, and that just hooks straight into there. And then the tabs that are on the inside of the arms just plug into either side of the fusion cannon, and that effectively, folks, is Megatron in tank mode. So there we go then, that has been our look at the long awaited SS86 Megatron. I think it came out really nicely, all things considered. It's not a perfect figure, the arms leave a little bit to be desired. A lot of people have issue with the fusion cannon, the colorization of the shins. Well, I don't think that's a big issue. Some people do take issue with it. And just the overall engineering of the hinge system at the back, I think leaves something to be desired. But overall, it is pretty impressive what Hasbro has managed to accomplish here, especially with how the sides of the tank morph into the legs and how they have effectively come up with a crystal clean looking G1 Megatron when the standard has been the siege mold for so long, and now we've finally got something that puts that to shame. I mean, the siege one might have the better tank mode, but by God does this have the better robot mode. I don't think he is the best leader that Hasbro put out this year, though. I think that does go to the Fallen. I think that is a fundamentally superior figure. I think the general engineering on the Fallen is far better than Megatron, but Megatron here is not to be sniffed at. They've done a really great job, I think, all things considered, and I do recommend him to anyone who wants to have a G1 Megatron in their collection. Sure, he doesn't turn into this, but whatever. Grow up. I've always thought Megatron turning into a Walter P-38 was stupid, and I stand by that. Him being a tank, so much better. But anyway, long story short, pick him up, definitely worth it. Thank you everybody so much for stopping by and checking out this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share it around to help out the channel. And until the next time, see you all later.